Welcome to the Stoic Golden Tribe, where enduring wisdom meets the strength of presence, and where we uncover the truths modern society refuses to teach men. Today's truth is harsh, but necessary. You were too nice, and that's exactly why she walked away. Not because kindness is a weakness, but because niceness without boundaries is, because what most men think is love often becomes self-betrayal. And what many men offer as affection is really silent desperation. In this video, we're going to break the chains. We'll uncover why overpleasing kills attraction, how history has shown that men who abandon themselves for love always lose, and how to reclaim your edge, your confidence, and your presence. This isn't about becoming cold, it's about becoming solid. We're diving into emotional intelligence, stoic masculinity, and powerful relationship truths that every man must learn if he ever wants to be truly respected, desired, and never walked over again. So if you've ever given too much, waited too long, or loved too hard without receiving the same in return, this one is for you. Like, share, and subscribe if you're ready to rise. And drop a comment at the end of this video to let the tribe know I will never shrink myself to be loved again. 1. When niceness becomes a silent surrender. There's a certain kind of man who loves deeply. He listens closely, gives generously, and sacrifices without hesitation. He believes that if he just gives more, proves himself more, softens more, she'll finally feel safe enough to love him the way he loves her. But over time, something strange happens. She stops texting first. She starts pulling away. And eventually she leaves, without warning, without tears, and without regret. And he's left confused. Because in his mind, he did everything right. He was always available. He never argued. He said yes to her world, even when it meant saying no to himself. But that's exactly where the slow death began. See, niceness, when rooted in fear and the need for validation, doesn't come across as strength, it comes across as self-erasure. And no woman stays attracted to a man who slowly disappears into her shadow just to be good enough. Let's be clear, kindness is noble, respect is necessary, but over-niceness without boundaries is not love, it's surrender. And women can smell it. They may not consciously know why they're pulling away, but on a deep, primal level, they feel it. This man is trying to earn me instead of being himself. And here's the hard truth. When you overgive in a relationship, you teach her how to undervalue you. Because what you give too easily will never be fully appreciated. What you make available at all times will never be seen as rare. And what you tolerate out of fear of losing her becomes the very reason she loses respect for you. The historical pattern of men who overgive. Let's travel back in time, ancient Rome, the cradle of Stoic wisdom. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful emperors in Roman history, once wrote, "A man's worth is no greater than the worth of his ambitions." Now imagine if Marcus had spent his time trying to please the Senate endlessly, trying to appease every demand of those who doubted him, trying to be nice so he wouldn't lose their favor. Rome would have fallen faster than it rose. Men who lead with excessive people-pleasing never make it to the throne. Because the throne doesn't reward those who seek approval, it honors those who embody purpose. And yet many modern men enter relationships with the emotional posture of a servant instead of a sovereign. They abandon their mission for affection. They ignore red flags to keep the peace. They sacrifice their values in silence just to avoid conflict. And then they wonder why they're left behind. History has shown us time and again, men who live to please are forgotten, but men who live with principle are remembered. The emotional cost of over-niceness When a man gives endlessly without receiving, he bleeds slowly, not physically, but emotionally. He begins to question his worth. He loses his fire, and worst of all, he starts believing the lie that love only comes through sacrifice. Let me tell you something brutally honest. You don't have to shrink to be chosen. Any woman who only values the version of you that bends, breaks, and betrays his own needs isn't worth the man you're becoming. The tragedy is that most nice guys are good men, but they're men who never learn to channel their goodness with strength. They confuse being agreeable with being admirable, and they trade respect for comfort, only to be left with neither. Why emotional boundaries are more attractive than pleasing. Here's what creates real attraction: emotional clarity, self-respect, the ability to say no without guilt, the discipline to walk away when respect is no longer mutual. A woman will chase a man she can't easily control, not because he's cruel, but because he has a spine. She will lean into a man who doesn't fear her disapproval, because his sense of self doesn't depend on it. Niceness becomes unattractive when it smells like fear. But when kindness is rooted in honor, values, and quiet strength, it commands respect. That's what turns her head. That's what makes her stay. It's time to reclaim your center. You've been told that to win her heart, you must give until there's nothing left. But that's a lie. You don't win love through absence of boundaries. You win it by standing in your fullness, with courage, with clarity, with quiet power. From this point forward, stop negotiating your worth, stop apologizing for your standards, stop begging for reciprocation, and stop thinking that walking on eggshells will lead to peace. Your peace is born from presence. Your value is in your stillness, and your worth is in the fire you carry, not in the favors you offer. Comment below, I will no longer trade my strength for her approval. 2. The hidden power of saying no. Every time you say yes to something that drains you, you say no to your own peace. And the more you deny yourself to accommodate her, the more invisible you become in her eyes. You weren't just too nice, you were too afraid to draw a line. Too afraid she'd leave if you set a standard. Too afraid she'd pull away if you pushed back. So you became agreeable, predictable, and easy. And she slowly stopped feeling anything at all. Because attraction isn't born in comfort, it's born in tension, in mystery, in the sacred edge between presence and purpose. You don't become irresistible by giving her everything. You become magnetic by not giving up yourself. Why women test boundaries? Here's something most men never realize. Women don't test you to hurt you. They test you to find you. She doesn't push just to create drama. She pushes to see if you can hold your ground, to see if your words match your spine, to see if you are led by internal truth or external approval. When you say yes to what you hate, when you agree just to keep her calm, you fail that test because you've shown her she can't trust your strength. And once trust is gone, desire follows, not because you weren't kind, but because your kindness came at the cost of your backbone. Every man she truly respects has one thing in common. He's not afraid to lose her when his integrity is on the line. Let that sink in. The fall of pleasers in power. Throughout history, men who bowed too often to please others, especially women of influence, lost not only their power, but their kingdoms. Think of royal advisors who surrendered strategy to romantic persuasion. Think of rulers who chose emotional validation over principle. Their empires crumbled not because they lacked love, but because they lacked leadership. Leadership isn't domination, it's discernment. You are either the emotional anchor of your relationship or the drifting ship following her moods and reactions. If you can't say no to disrespect, to manipulation, to inconsistency, you are not leading, you are surviving. and survival mode kills desire. The masculine frame: calm, clear, unshakable. The most attractive quality a man can develop isn't charm, it's clarity. A clear man doesn't need to yell, he doesn't need to chase, he doesn't need to prove. He simply is, unapologetically. He knows what he will tolerate and what he will not. He knows his path and doesn't derail it to fit into someone else's expectations. He's kind, yes, but never at the expense of his own soul. This is what draws her in. This is what builds respect. Not the man who buys flowers after every argument, but the man who can say, "I will not entertain a love that costs me my self-worth." Rebuilding the edge. You gave away. If you've given away your power in the name of being nice, you're not broken, you're simply untrained. No one taught you the difference between kindness and submission. No one showed you how emotional clarity trumps emotional begging. No one told you that love doesn't mean sacrificing everything, it means standing in everything. It's time to rebuild, not through revenge, not through bitterness, but through reclaiming the edge you once dulled to be accepted. Let her feel your boundaries. Let her see your firmness. Let her realize that love is not earned through sacrifice, but shared through mutual respect. Comment below. My no is sacred. My peace is not for sale. 3. When pleasing her becomes betraying yourself. Every man has a moment he looks back on in silence, when he ignored that small voice inside, when he went along with something he knew didn't sit right, when he said, "It's fine," just to keep the peace, only to lose himself a little more. That's not love. That's abandonment. Not of her, but of you. You thought being the good guy would keep her close. You thought the more flexible you were, the more she'd appreciate you. You thought going along with her moods, her shifts, her storms would make her feel secure. But instead, she walked away. And deep down, you knew why. Because she didn't just lose interest in you, she watched you lose interest in yourself. You started censoring your truth. You stopped pursuing your goals. You tolerated disrespect in silence, all because you feared she'd leave if you said the wrong thing. But here's the bitter truth. No one tells men. The more you betray yourself for her, the easier it is for her to betray you. When silence becomes self-erasure. There's a kind of silence that's noble, rooted in calm, grounded strength. But there's another kind of silence, one born of fear, shame, and emotional dependency. The silence of not speaking up when something doesn't feel right. The silence of swallowing pain just to avoid conflict. The silence of waiting for her validation instead of validating your own path. That silence is not strength, it's surrender. And no woman stays drawn to a man who disappears behind a smile. You weren't too emotional, you weren't too intense, you were just too afraid to risk discomfort. And in the end, you became forgettable. Not because you lacked value, but because you made yourself so small there was nothing left for her to see. The danger of being too predictable. Women don't leave because you're kind, they leave because you become too easy to read, too easy to control, too easy to ignore. The man who is always available, always says yes, always lets things slide, is not seen as safe. He's seen as forgettable. Attraction needs mystery. Respect needs contrast. Love needs two whole people, not one shapeshifter and one chooser. Predictability doesn't create safety, it breeds boredom. And boredom kills emotional connection faster than betrayal ever will. You were there for her, but you weren't there for you. And eventually, she stopped seeing you altogether. Women want a man who can lead himself. You know what's rare today? A man who knows what he wants and moves toward it, with or without applause. A man who can hold tension without crumbling. A man who can say, "I love you, but I won't tolerate that," without shaking. This isn't arrogance, it's alignment. Women respect men who don't abandon themselves, not because they're mean, not because they're cold, but because they live by a deeper code. They have values that don't bend to desire. They have clarity that doesn't shift based on attention. And they have the emotional presence to remain calm even when love gets complicated. That's the kind of man she cannot forget. Not because he chases, but because he commands energy without ever asking for it. Reclaiming your masculine core. You don't have to stop being kind. You don't have to be cruel to be respected, but you must stop bending to be loved. The moment you shrink to stay, you lose the woman and the man you are meant to be. So stop walking on emotional eggshells, stop performing niceness, and stop confusing people-pleasing with strength. Reclaim your ground. Speak when something feels off. Say no when your peace is threatened. And stop apologizing for your standards. The right woman won't run from your strength. She'll rise to meet it. The wrong woman will try to break it. And the man who forgets the difference loses everything. Let this be the last time you betray yourself just to be liked. Let this be the moment you choose your voice over your silence. Comment below. I'd rather be alone with truth than lost in someone else's comfort. Stop pleasing, start leading. Somewhere along the way, modern men were sold a lie that being agreeable, always saying yes, always being available, was the way to keep a woman. But the truth is this: you don't earn love through softness alone. You keep it through presence, through clarity, through leadership. Not control, not domination, but direction. She didn't leave because you were good to her. She left because you stopped being good to yourself. You were too nice. Not in your actions, but in the way you erased your edge. You stopped challenging her. You stopped leading with purpose. You stopped showing her your standards, your vision, your direction. And no woman follows a man who follows her. Maybe you thought love meant approval. It means accountability. When you're too nice, you become a mirror of her emotions instead of the anchor for them. You reflect her moods. You avoid her disappointments. You tiptoe around her triggers. And soon, without even knowing it, you become the emotional passenger in your own relationship. You thought love meant support, but real love means accountability. You're not here to be her emotional sponge. You're here to be a man of order in a world of emotional chaos. Not a savior, not a doormat, but a presence she can trust because you trust yourself. You were designed to lead your life, to stand in truth, to bring stillness, not by pleasing, but by holding the line from over-apologizing to quiet power. Let's be honest. You apologized for things you didn't do. You said, "I'm sorry," for how she felt. You tried to manage her reactions, hoping she'd see your heart. But here's what no one told you. Over-apologizing trains her to disrespect you. It signals that you are more concerned with being liked than being right. It tells her that your peace depends on her mood, and that's not love, that's emotional servitude. A real man doesn't apologize for his backbone. He doesn't explain his standards. He doesn't beg to be understood. He lives, speaks, and moves with a quiet power that doesn't need validation. He is not unkind, he is unshakable. And that, my brother, is what she will chase, respect, and remember. Build yourself into a man. She can't walk away from you. Don't chase her anymore. You chase discipline. You chase purpose. You chase growth, because that's what builds the man who doesn't need to be loved to stand tall. He walks with or without applause. He leads with or without approval. And if she walks away, it's not his world that collapses. It's hers that misses out. You were too nice before because you thought love was about effort. Now you know love is about alignment. You are not here to be her fantasy. You are here to be her wake-up call. The man who loves with power, the man who leads with peace, the man who never begs for what he brings to the table. Let them call you cold. Let them call you distant. As long as you are not betraying your soul, you are winning in ways they'll never understand. Comment below, I'd rather be respected for my strength than loved for my silence. If this message resonated with you, if you've been that man, too nice, too soft, too agreeable, then this is your turning point. Not to become bitter, but to become better, stronger, clearer, unshakable. It's time to lead your life with presence. It's time to stop folding to please and start rising with power. Welcome to the era of quiet strength. Welcome to the rise of the Stoic man. Like, share, and subscribe to join the brotherhood, and drop a comment below to let the world know you've stopped pleasing and started leading.